Your value is not to be somebody who never falters and is always prepared and doesn't need anybody ever and can accomplish everything at the detriment of their own. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name's Mickey. I'm a therapist, and we talk about therapist things on this channel. And today we're talking about things that your therapist kind of like wishes they could say to you or wants to say to you but doesn't know how, or things that they just like won't tell you because there is a lot of mystery around therapists and like, what are we thinking and what are our secrets and all this stuff. And so I wanted to make this video hopefully to put some folks at ease. There's also a lot of content around the internet about like, you know, shady things that therapists think or say, or like assumptions that therapists think. And that's not helpful. The whole purpose of this channel is to make people more comfortable to go to therapy. So I want to talk about some of those things, both for, the purpose of demystifying them, but also to hopefully shed some light on the mentally ill people behind the curtain who are also your therapists. So without further ado, if you're new here, hi, thanks for coming. You should subscribe because I think we're quite cool on this channel. And also we have a Discord that you can access by subscribing to the $5 or above level that I'd love to have you join. So do that. That's it. Let's talk about the first thing that therapists wish they could say, but they won't say, which is that you might feel a little bit like you're losing your personality when you first start therapy and healing and really doing all of that, which sounds really scary, right? And if you are or have been a people pleaser, if you've been somebody who has masked your whole life, or you're somebody who is sort of indoctrinated or taught to disappear yourself, then unlearning all of that is a little bit like, right? That's very scary. And so that might feel like that part of you is kind of disappearing as you heal and you grow out of those dysfunctional behaviors. However, it's okay, right? It's going to be fine, not just because your therapist can be there to sort of walk you through that, but also because we're essentially like excavating all of this stuff out of your proverbial space to make room for you to be like actually who you are, right? That's very important and transformative work, I would say, in a positive way. And it might feel really bad at first. That might feel really scary. Therapists are probably not going to tell you this because I think if we led with this disclosure up front, people would probably run away from therapy. But for what it's worth, you might feel that way, right? Clearing out a sort of old cupboard full of survival mechanisms means that we're having to sort of whittle down to bare bones. And that gives you the opportunity to make a really conscious decision about who am I and what are my values and beliefs and what do I really want my life to look like, and like who am I actually, right? Not who is this person that is sort of like covered in all of these survival mechanisms and indoctrinations, but like me for reals, which is great. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about today is that sometimes your therapist might cry after your appointments, not because you suck, sometimes because therapy is just a really frustrating job where knowing something and feeling something are not the same, right? So sometimes therapists witness clients become like intellectually aware of something, but still not feel like it's true. And it is the most frustrating fucking experience. And I just want you to feel better. And I wish, like, if there was a way that therapists could just, like, boop, like, push a button and make, like, knowing and feeling the same, then we would, right? But the truth is that it's very complex. It takes a lot more time than that. And so sometimes we cry because we're frustrated. Sometimes we cry because we feel like we suck and because we're like, well, surely if I was a better fucking therapist, then I could walk this person through this more effectively. And that's not true, but it is still frustrating sometimes. However, we do also cry sometimes because in the deep disclosures and vulnerable moments that therapy requires, sometimes we get a glimpse of that like wounded, sad, like inner child part of you. And we just like want to, I don't know, maybe this is just a me experience, but I would assume it's not. We just want to like wrap that little person in a hug and like love them and tell them that everything's going to be okay and that like you are good and you belong and you deserve all of the good things in the world. And also we want to fight the people who hurt you, but that's not allowed. That's inappropriate. And so of course we don't do that. We do sometimes struggle with feeling of sadness and a frustration about you experiencing suffering that you really should not have to. For what it's worth also, though, sometimes we cry because we're just so damn proud of you, and like watching somebody grow and become the version of themselves that they feel most empowered in is like the moment that makes a really hard job worth doing. And so we also sometimes after you leave, we're like, hell yeah, we're so excited for you and just like excited and proud that we get to witness that part of your life. It's a very like special and profound thing. This is one of those things, the third thing that I want to talk about, this is one of those things that sometimes I think therapists wish we could just say to you in a very like point blank way, but we don't because that's inappropriate, but we're going to talk about it here just for the purpose of hopefully educating about it. You can stop over explaining things to us because we get it. Right? Like it's fine. It's a trauma response. And I know that sometimes it's a compulsive trauma response where you feel like you can't help it. And that's fine. I'm not judging you. This is why therapists won't say that to you because they don't want you to feel judged or chastised for over explaining things. And the thing is that this trauma response is often a survival mechanism that we will employ because we're deeply fearful of being disliked and therefore abandoned. And this is because your childhood, your adolescence, your upbringing, sucked sometimes, right? Maybe we had really traumatizing or shitty experience that caused us to do this. And I want to encourage you to, in therapy, practice allowing yourself that you can just say what you think and what you feel and what's on your mind, and that you don't have to preface that. You don't have to give us caveats or explanations. You don't have to justify that. You just feel how you feel or you think what you think. If you start to get real problematic, therapists can help like reel you back from that, right? But you don't have to be a person who over-explains things and makes like a dissertation out of something that really ultimately is quite simple. You're allowed to express yourself in a very simple and unfiltered way. That's the whole point of therapy, right? Not only do therapists, like I promise, I know everybody says this, we really are not judging you. I promise we're not judging you. But also that even if we were, it is literally so not allowed for a therapist to express judgment of you or to communicate that to you. And so even if we are judging you, first of all, we're probably chastising ourselves inside and saying like, bitch, get it together. You're not supposed to be judging anybody, so stop it. And also any good therapist would never, ever, ever express that to you or communicate that. And so please just try to encourage yourself to speak freely and to stop over-explaining everything you really don't have to. Me over-explaining everything while I'm talking about this. The call's coming from inside the house. The other thing one of the other things that I want to talk to you about is that hyper-functioning and being hyper-independent, or being high-functioning rather, high-functioning and being hyper-independent, that is not something to be proud of. I know that we live in a culture and a world that tells us that it is. It's not. Any good therapist will probably try to bring your attention to the detrimental impact of this behavior in a more roundabout and gentle way. But for the sake of simplicity, since I'm not your therapist and we don't do therapy here because that's not allowed and literally impossible, you are doing this, the high-functioning, hyper-independent thing, because your people let you down. Right? They didn't make space for you to be soft or to be unprepared or for you to need to depend on others. And so this is often a behavior that develops because you feel like hitching your wagon to others is quite literally sometimes physically or psychologically or emotionally dangerous. And while it's something that is very, very human and very understandable, especially from a trauma-informed perspective, going through life in this very like keyed up and white-knuckled way is incredibly exhausting, right? It's not something that we should be uplifting and like holding as a rubric for being a good person, because it's a trauma response. This is not a good thing or something to be proud of. And as therapists, we see this all the time where people are fearful to let this go because they feel as though this is their value in the world, right? It's not. Your value is not to be somebody who never falters and is always prepared and doesn't need anybody ever and can accomplish everything at the detriment of their own mental health and well-being and safety. That's not good. So as a therapist and a high functioner and a hyper-independent person, I want to put it out there. If you're feeling that way, especially in therapy, please know that you are very much allowed to be messy and unprepared and soft in therapy. You're allowed to do that. Therapists are people who should be safe for you to express that and to talk about that and to practice letting go of this behavior and this tendency, because again, ultimately this is really, really detrimental to your well-being, and you don't deserve that. You really don't. Everybody should get to be soft sometimes. That's just the way that human beings are. We're squishy. It's nice. It feels good when you're able to just be free of that. So try to let go of that in therapy, because your therapist really does, or should. Any good therapist should have your back. Okay, this last one might punch you in the gut a little bit, and I'm so incredibly sorry for that. I love you very much. However, you probably don't have low motivation. You might just be shutting down, especially for those of us that were the high achieving gold star student kids. A lifetime of being told that you had to suffer and trudge through the mud and try really hard at everything that you do in order to get anything good or worth having teaches people to just not want things, right? When you have survived an adolescence and a childhood and a young adulthood where we are constantly suffering because somebody told us that that's the moral thing to do, that's the good and righteous thing to do, and that one day it will pay off, only to be adults in a world where the economy is collapsing and so is our government, and nothing good ever really works out in the way that we were told it was supposed to societally. Sometimes we shut down because our nervous system says, you know what, fuck it. I don't want anything anymore, actually. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to achieve anything. I don't want to make breakfast. I don't want to have hobbies or to have interests or to chase after my dreams. I don't want to have goals. I don't want to set benchmarks for myself, because all it does is make me feel like I'm suffering and like I'm drowning, and I'm tired of drowning. That sucks. So if you're in that place, please know that, first of all, your therapist probably sees this, and again, will likely try to bring your attention to this in like a more roundabout and gentle and sort of self-discovery type of way, and that your brain is likely in a place where you're trying to figure out how to differentiate these two things, right? Like, how do I set goals? How do I have desires and wants and interests without that being inherently coupled with suffering and struggle and sort of needless trudging through the mud simply because somebody told me that it's the moral thing to do. For what it's worth, this can also be a grieving thing, right? You might also just be grieving the family that you were supposed to have, but you didn't, and the life that you thought you were going to have, but you didn't, right? You might also be grieving the fact that you were not allowed to be the person that you inherently are because you were pressured or forced or coerced into masking and hiding, for example, autism, neurodivergency, especially folks who are neurodivergent have this experience where your normal, natural, sort of self-inclined self pushed down like whack-a-mole, right? You got told that children are supposed to be seen and not heard, or that your sensory sensitivities, your frustrations, your issues were a problem or a burden to other people. And so you stop doing that. And at a certain point, we reach a point of collapse, right? And so the low motivation that you're experiencing is probably not that. It's probably just a shutdown after a lifetime of having suppressed those things and not really knowing how to coexist alongside of like your, I don't know, sort of naturally like universe created self, and all of the societal and political and professional and familial and social expectations that are bumping into this person that you should just be allowed to be. So if that resonates with you, please know, again, your therapist probably sees this and is likely, hopefully working towards some revelation and some work on that with you. And that you are not shitty. You're not lazy or lacking in moral fiber. You're probably just, in fact, trying to survive, and you do very much deserve the space to figure out what that looks like for you and the time to grieve, to process, to express your emotions, to talk about your emotions and figure out what to do with all of those fucking emotions, and then to move forward from there, right? All of these things are things that hopefully your therapist is going to create some space for you to feel those things, express those things, process those things, and then move forward from there. So if any of these resonate with you, love you so much, and I'm sorry that you're going through a hard time. Big, big love to you. And do know there are always links in my description for you guys to access accessible, low-cost, inclusive therapy. I don't get paid for those. I just put them there because I think they're wonderful. I think you're wonderful. And we should be uplifting access to a thing that is unfortunately not accessible to everyone. So links in description for that. And if you like the video, you should like the video. You can subscribe to join the channel. We also have a Discord server that I'd love to have you join if you join the YouTube memberships or the Patreon at the $5 and above level. And then you can share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow. And I will see you guys next Saturday. Okay, bye.
good.